Amongst political journalists of a certain vintage, the Scottish referendum campaign has conjured up a feeling of déjà vu. Swap yes for oui and no for non, difficult to say, and you could have the independence campaign in the Canadian province of Quebec in the 1990s. Here's Adam Fleming.
Quebec. They love dressing up, speaking French and voting on whether to leave Canada. They last did that in 1995, and there are some spooky parallels with what happened then and the final few days of the campaign in Scotland. Just ask someone who was there.
Watching this whole campaign is giving me a very strong sense of déjà vu, having followed the Quebec referendum nearly 20 years ago. Hugely exciting campaign, a nail-biter, very, very close, but also bringing together these very big emotional feelings. Unlike a lot of regular election campaigns, this was about national identity, about belonging.
Exhibit A, the polls. In the early days, the Canadian No campaign was well ahead. Then, at the last minute, the We camp took the lead. Exactly the same appears to have happened in Scotland this week. Better Together's response is right out of the Quebec playbook, like the leaders of the pro-union parties offering more devolution.
The Prime Minister of Canada said that Quebec would be recognised as a distinct nation, that it would have a kind of constitutional veto. People said it's too late, if you really meant it, you'd have done it earlier, we can't trust you to keep your promises, we won't be fooled again, exactly as you're hearing now on the nationalist side. And then there was this move to say that we've been too negative on the no side, we've been too pettifogging about the detail, we've now got to be open-hearted and generous, and this love-bombing campaign began.
Just like Downing Street's decision to fly the Saltire, although there are a few tricks Number 10 might not borrow from Canada.
Now imagine David Cameron said to everyone in England, head on down to King's Cross Station and I'll pay for you to go to Scotland to campaign. Sounds mad, doesn't it? Well, in 1995, the government in Canada subsidised train and plane fares so that ordinary Canadians could go to Quebec to beg them to stay. If you got a free ticket to go to Scotland to campaign for Scotland to stay in the UK, would you take it?
Yes, I would.
You wouldn't be tempted with a free ticket up to Scotland?
Well, I used to live there. It's a lovely place, but I think they cost us too much money. And if they want to go, they can go.
One way or return?
The Yes campaign has studied Canada for years too. The main lessons they learnt start early and involve the whole of society. There's a big difference from Quebec though. We know the result. The answer was no, but only just.
Adam Fleming reporting there, where we're joined now by Nala Ayad from Canadian broadcaster CBC. Welcome. I love the idea that the government paid for people to go to Quebec to beg them to stay. That obviously worked.
Well, it depends who you speak with, whether there was actually a payment made or not. But the fact is that about 100,000 Canadians actually ended up in Montreal. I was there as a student journalist, and it was quite a scene. Certainly not one that the separatists were appreciative of, but one that the Federalist side felt that actually credited with that very small surge ahead for the no side.
What lessons then do you think for Scotland at this stage in the campaign?
It's amazing actually watching this campaign, the similarities, despite the fact that the campaign is so starkly shorter on the Canadian side than it is here. 2 years here.
It's gone on forever here, hasn't it?
It was a month in Canada. And so despite that, the arc has been really similar. And so this surge of the no side all along, and then suddenly the dramatic surge of the yes side at the end, how to deal with that. In Canada, as you saw, there was the love-in, the love bombing that happened. Here it seems to be happening. It does sound very familiar. Does it work? As I said, the separatists were not very happy about it in Canada. Here, when I was in Scotland a couple of weeks ago, was told that it's not the kind of approach that they like to see, that it's too late, too little too late.
Right, what do you say to that? I mean, interesting, what about a month-long campaign? Would that have been better for the no side or the yes side?
It's kind of amounted to that because people haven't really got their minds around it until it was actually
in the last few weeks.
Honest. I mean, what's really interesting about the Quebec question is that they then wrung such strong concessions as a result of very, very nearly winning that it resolved the problem. There really does appear to be now very little push for another or a neverendum any longer. The young, for instance, in Quebec seem to be 70% for not breaking away. So it sounds as if it's done the trick, and maybe what the no side is offering now would do the trick in Scotland as well and resolve the question by giving plenty for...
Do you agree with that point? And does it end it? Does it end the debate on independence? if there is a no vote?
Actually, in Canada, the sovereigntist movement still exists, and it actually is watching this vote very, very closely, just as Catalonia is in Venice, because it could be instructive. And in fact, some of those associations in Montreal have actually planned some meetings for shortly after the vote to try to talk about what effect this vote might have on the future, next possible referendum. So it's not quite dead yet. It's still there. And the Parti Québécois, which led, would have hoped to go for another vote, still has a broad base of popularity.
In the final seconds, was it a dirty campaign?
In Canada, depends who you talk to.
Right, I see. All right, well, we'll end it there. Thank you yes, well, we should say compared to Scotland, but we will leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us today. That's it.